If you look at per capita, because our population's growing, if you look at the amount of sales per capita, it's the worst market we've had for sales since the inception of the MLS system, right? So you're talking more than 30 years, 40 years, the slowest market we've ever had. So I don't trust any politician. They're in somebody's pocket. I don't give a shit who you are. You're in somebody's pocket. And now you're gonna buy a build for purpose for rentals? Okay. How much is that gonna cost the taxpayer?
Hello and welcome back to the DC Talks podcast with David Chinelli. Woo-woo. I'm your co-host, Owen Osinde, aka Agent O. And Mr. DC, how you doing today?
Got a little more energy now. I'm trying to
a little
get
more pep
a
to
little
your
more,
step.
The electrolytes are finally kicking in. So yeah, doing all right. How about you?
I'm blessed, man. I'm fantastic. Super excited to chat what's going on in the city with these stalled condo projects and get your take on it. And
should I get my AI guy to talk for me instead? Like do this whole.
So guys, if you don't know, DC has been posting a lot of these articles.
Not a lot. I posted 3 so far, but a couple of them because I wanted to see if people would notice or not.
Yeah. And, he typically posts a lot of green screen videos and, it's him talking, sharing his insights. And I'm bringing up this topic that we're going to be doing today. He's like, hey, I posted that. That video is AI. And I'm like, you're joking. It's like, no, that's AI. And guys, go on his profile, David V. Chinelli _realtor, and watch these videos. Compare from other videos he's done before.
My voice is a little off.
It's a little off.
And I do know what I'm saying. So what happens is I'll take an article and I'll review it. And then but we do all this AI stuff in the background. So I know what I'm saying, but I always tell my team, like, be careful with AI. Don't start posting stuff if you haven't read the article, because somebody might ask you a question and you have no idea what they're talking about. But that's why so Owen brought up this topic, and it's like, well, I think there's 9 projects just canceled in the Toronto area.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, this is happening. This is happening. Yeah.
And it's a trend that's going to be going on for the foreseeable future. But
we don't see any shovels in the ground. I think after 2028, there's going to be scarcity out there, guys. Lots of scarcity. So you want to summarize the article for us?
Yes. So Urban Nation came out with some data.
Urban Nation is amazing. They give us our own report at Royal LePage Signature. So if you're one of my clients and you're able to get the report, just let you know.
Exactly. So
only my clients, not all my clients. Not all my clients want it, but we're not allowed to share everything, all the news, because we pay for it, right?
It's like upgrade, subscribe for more.
Yeah, so like if you look at my profile, Urban Nation, they're amazing. Like they go like way in depth.
Yeah,
like
you send me a couple of those reports,
insights.
and they're like deep insights. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. It's just so much data, and it's really well organized too. So Urban Nation came up with this report talking about the cancel and stalled projects that are on the rise. So 2025 so far, there have been 9 projects canceled, on track to match 2024's 11 canceled projects. So this is 2,581 units. Previous peaks in 2021, 2,153 units, and 2017, 1,809 units. Why does this matter? It's just not one developer, but it's becoming a market-wide trend. Before, cancellations were about individual developers running out of money. Now it's about the whole market that's slowing down. So
in order for a developer to actually put a shovel into the ground to build, over 70% of the units need to be sold in order to fund the project. So they can start a project and then continue to sell the project until everything is sold. But they need 70% for funding. That's at the end of the day. That's what they need. And this is kind of the thing we talked about last time. And I was talking with one of my other followers, and I was saying about there's so much red tape. And he's like, you can't use that word because, it encompasses too much stuff. I'm like, well, there's a lot of red tape to get into, so a revision, for example, you go to the city of Toronto, you want to build 70 stories. Well, you already paid for, the architect to do all that. Like, no, you can only do 60. And then you have to go to committee adjustments. So it takes time and effort, and really, that's kind of red tape. And then you also have to change, pricing and what things look like. So, and then regulations of what can be approved. So that's what we mean by red tape. There's a lot of it. And what Urban Nation has told us, it's gone up the last 10 years. The red tape has gone up 1,000%, to the point where these units got more expensive, obviously with labor costs. And I've said this before in some of the talks we've had, that we had Nick Steelo on the show, and he was explaining to us, is like the development fees, the percentages, like the margins haven't changed, but all the other costs have gone up, including the red tape, which is, again, sorry for that buzzword, but it's true. And to the point where these units got so expensive that they no longer made sense for the average buyer. What do I mean they make sense? So there's one example of a guy, I think it was on City TV, that he paid $900 or something for for a 1-bedroom. At the end of the day, he had to sign and sell it on assignment, and he ended up selling it for a deficit, right? Because the amount of money for it had dropped like $300K. So when he had bought the project, they assumed that the market was going to continue to increase every year, which is kind of naive, but whatever it was, they say they paid $900,000 for it. I don't remember the amount. Paid $900,000 for it. Well, now that unit, because the condo market has dropped, it's only worth like $600,000. So he ended up selling it on assignment, which is on the paper, and now he has to have a mortgage for $300,000 to cover the deficit that he couldn't cover. He's got a mortgage on a property that he doesn't own.
That's risky. It's
Well, this is the face of it. This is what we're facing right now. And I was running stats. I had a listing appointment the other day with a client, and he paid like, I forget the amount, and he's in Brampton. And I said, Brampton right now, the average condo price, you know what the average condo price in Brampton is?
$550.
Okay, so Brampton, $469,200. Last year, the same condo average, guess what it was last year? 2024 for August.
620.
Wow, 541,000.
Oh, so my previous prediction was closer.
The year before 2023 was 549 and then 550. So it's dropped over 100K, right? So think about that. Like, so if you bought in 2022, is in Brampton, and you're looking at future value. So if you paid, so if the regular price were 559, if the trend continued, I could see you paying $700,000 for this condo. Well, what happens when you get to the market? Now it's only worth 469. This is the example that we're giving. So this is what's happening in the condo markets, and that's to have 9 projects canceled is crazy. But if you think about that, people can't afford to close on them because they're worth less. So what's happening now is that, sure, some mortgage companies they're doing a blanket mortgage in which they're just saying what everything is worth, they're allowing to go through. But a lot of times we go into individual units. In a case like this, for example, if you paid $700 for it, but them come back and the market tells you it's only worth $469. Well, in order for you to close on that project, you have to pay the gap of that. So which is 400 minus that 700 minus 460, right? That's $240,000 on top of your mortgage you already have to come. So of course, like not everybody has that extra cash. This is supposed to be an investment for a lot of people. So that's not much investment. You're losing $200K on your investment right off the top. So people are backing away from it, or they're just not getting enough sales.
Yeah. Even my friend too, to jump in there, DC, he bought a pre-construction out in, is it Uxbridge or Uxbridge, right?
Yeah.
And it's been like 4 years now, 5 years. And I was asking like, Ev, like, what happened in your condo? Like, he's living downtown now with another friend of ours, and still say, hey, they're still completing, they're still doing whatever. And I'm like, how?
Well, my friend Steve and I bought a condo in 2016, and you know when it got finished? Last year.
2024?
Yeah, last year. 7 years. But again, we're investors, so we don't give a shit. Like, but
it's not like you're living in there. It's just like, yeah.
Exactly. For investors, we don't care. It's like the longer you wait, the better. Hopefully the market goes up even higher and higher and higher. And it did for us. Like it's doubled in price. But think about it. You bought something 7-8 years ago. It should go up in value, especially because the prices were cheaper back then. But that's like, and this is not always the case as we're seeing here, right? But yeah, like so investors, you don't care. But I talk about my friend Kelly, my wife's friend Kelly, and my friend Kelly as well. She bought a condo years and years ago, right? And it's actually down the street from our house now. By the time that the condo was ready, she was single at the time when she bought it. She ended up getting married, having 3 kids, bought a house, right? By the time that this was even ready, right? And it moved 2 or 3 times, I think, since that time.
It's like a whole lifetime.
Yeah, like I said, so the condo living, that's the thing. That's the problem sometimes comes. Like you don't buy a condo and it's built like tomorrow. Now, detached, semi-detached townhouses, sometimes the turnaround's like a year. Sometimes if they're already construction, they can get it done less time. So I can think if you're looking to move into properties quicker, don't go through high rises. It doesn't always happen unless it's already built or it's almost already completed, right? That's the thing. But the problem we're going to see right now is that, like I said, there's going to be scarcity. If there's going to be in Toronto, we look how many people come into Canada. Like if they're continuing to have 1 million people in Canada, over 1/3 stay in Toronto, so you have 330, if not 400,000 people coming into Toronto, like including that's the GTA, right? Where are you going to put these people? So the government has come out now, and so Carney is like saying, well, we're going to build purposeful rentals. again, we talked about that, but like that doesn't help the homeowners, right? And it helps like obviously people coming in that want to rent or renters, but for actual home ownership, it doesn't help. And the government's response, and some of the one of my liberals, one of my friends is a liberal, and he was saying, he goes, they don't want you to own. I was like, and I was saying, he goes, well, you own too many properties anyway.
He's saying you own too many
I own too many properties.
Wow. Whoa.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
How do you even say that to someone? You own way too many properties, as if
I'm the one that took the risk.
There should be some limits to how much you can own. Like, what kind of mindset is?
Well, and I remember saying, is like that's a problem. People, they own more than 2 properties and stuff too. And I'm like, what do you mean that's a problem? Right? We're helping the economy. We're also helping people find rental properties, which the government would have to do them on their own, and buy purposeful rentals and overpay for. I already know they're going to overpay, just like like Justin Trudeau's app. They're going to overpay for this construction. They're going to get hosed. Have you not seen all the corruption that's going on with all the mafia taking care of all the construction costs on the roads and things like that? Have you heard about all that? How the Gardner was 6 inches smaller, and then how all that concrete, where did it go? Went to all the places, all those houses in Kleinberg and everything. So there's a lot of corruption going on. So you're trying to tell me that this purposeful rentals that the liberal government are going to be hiring these trades, there's not going to be any corruption in there? I just told you in our last podcast, I don't trust any politician. They're in somebody's pocket. Mm-hmm. Somebody's pocket. I don't give a shit who you are. You're in somebody's pocket. And you're not. And now you're going to build purposeful rentals? Okay. How much is that going to cost the taxpayer?
Wow. You own too many properties. Like, I'm just flabbergasted by that.
Yeah. Instead of saying, hey, congratulations, you're doing this, and most of them are profitable now because we've owned them for a certain period of time. But anyway, but how dare I? That's why I pay a shitload of taxes.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't ask you about that.
No one asks me the taxes. I pay more taxes than I think people making an income, So it's like, where's my relief?
Yeah. Like, where's my break? You never ask you that. So right now, DC, right? So 16 projects, right? That's about 5,045 units, launched over a year ago, and have sold less than 40% of their units. So part of the article, they're talking about some of these are going into receivership. Can you elaborate more about this receivership for those people who don't know what that is?
Yeah, when they can't fund it, they'll go bankrupt. So if you've paid for, here what happens is that like if a company obviously can't afford it, a builder can't afford it, a developer can't afford it, like basically it's bankruptcy, right? They go in receivership and they're hoping that another company comes and pays for it and buys it out. But what happens if you are an investor and you purchased a unit with the first builder, you get your deposit returned because now it's a new builder. They can change plans, they change everything, change pricing, so you lose opportunity cost. So if I gave it to a developer, I gave $200,000. The project gets canceled because they're under receivership. Like hopefully, like I've heard some cases people not getting their deposit back, but it's supposed to stay in trust. They're supposed to get their money back. But say some rare case they don't get they get their money back. You get it without interest. So imagine you've given the developer, say, $100,000. Let's just call it something simple. Even at a simple interest rate of 3%, you should be earning 3% on that per annum, and then compound it. After 3 years, you don't get anything. You just get your $100,000 back. Well, you might have missed out on opportunities to buy another house or buy something which you could have earned money on, put it into stocks. So that's a problem. That's a big problem.
So if you were an investor right now, would you put money into pre-construction condos or wait it out? No?
I don't know. I've been steering my clients away unless you're buying it for yourself. It's like one of my clients called me the other day and I talked to him and him and his mom bought like pre-construction houses and stuff too. And I said, it's perfect what they're looking for. They can alter it. It's like, yeah. And not all developers work with realtors. So I said to him, like, if you find a pre-construction one that doesn't work with realtors, yeah, go ahead and just tell me. So he calls him, he goes, yeah, in the new year, you have to sell 2 houses once these are built. Great. I'll take that all day long. And they just had a baby too. So congratulations, guys. But yeah, so they're moving into that house and they can tweak it. They can probably get a good deal on a new because now as well, because the prices have come down, right? So pre-construction, if you're moving into it personally, now may be a good opportunity. But the only way I would get a pre-construction for my clients into something in like a high rise or a condo is on an assignment. Right? An assignment. That's what we were talking about before. Remember, I just told about the gentleman who lost $300,000. He sold his condo on assignment. What assignment is, basically, you're purchasing the paperwork from another individual who already put like the deposit, everything down. So you still have to be approved. So, when you go in, 2017, you want to buy a condo at Yonge and Eglinton. right? You put your $200,000 down, you have one more payment to make. Well, now you realize it's not going to make money. Like, so you paid 900 for it. You might put it on the market, you put it on MLS and put it for 700, right? That makes sense. As long as it's market value, I would tell my clients, buy this property. So, we would buy it off you, buy the paperwork. You would lose $200,000 on the deal, but you're not going to get sued.
Wait, so I lose $200K because I bought it on an assignment sale. So what advantage do I have of buying it
So you get out of the project. You get it to sell it. You get basically, if you can't afford to close on it, and you don't want to close on it because maybe you overpaid for it, and the market's telling you it's worth 700 and it's not going to get to 900 for the next 10 years. You might just say, well, I'd rather take the hit now, right? And as opposed to like 10 years from now, I have to carry this, but I have to, or worse, get sued because I can't close on it.
Mm-hmm. So just so I can understand the concept, right? So the assignment sale is you bought the condo, and now I'm buying it from you on assignment because you're like, I can't cover the costs. So Owen comes in and is like, hey, David, I want to buy this, the paperwork away from you. And now the condo is worth, on paper, it should be worth 900K, but you bought it for 700.
So remember, like I'm buying at 700 and I can get a mortgage for 700.
Yeah.
But remember, you have to pay the difference you paid for 9 to the builder. So I have to pay the difference, like the 9. You're still on the hook for it. Because the builder sold it at 9, and now I'm reselling it at 7. Well, the builder still needs to get his $900,000, so I can mortgage or whatever the amount is at 700, which I purchased. Now the original owner has to bridge the gap, and that's why they're losing money. That's why in that case, that guy's losing $300,000. Had to mortgage a $300,000 loan, even though he doesn't own the condo.
Mm-hmm. So again, I'm just asking some questions. Am I at the mercy of just the valuation of the condo going up like year over year over certain factors, like the market is dictating this? So it's kind of like a stock market type of thing where the property values can go up and down, and then depending on when you...
But it should have always been that way. But the thing is, with the condo market or the housing market, it's slower moving then, and it's usually safer. The issue that we had is when some of these people purchased, we had a spike in the market, right? If you looked, there's many people that got hoodwinked in 2021, and they bought, remember some of the properties in Stayner, they're buying properties for 1.8 million, 1.6 million for Stayner, which are worth 900,000 or a million, but because they felt, the market's going to continue to go up. But by the time, if this trend continues, the value will be there in a couple of years. So when you're buying a condo, usually it takes longer time. You can help mitigate that cost, that risk. 4 years is a little bit less mitigation, but yeah, sometimes, but the problem is if you're bottom in the market where people are seeing, I saw some condos that were listed, like she condos, over $3,000 a square foot. So a 1,000 square foot condo, of course, it's in Yorkville, was $3 million. That's insane. I'm selling a condo over here. It's if you take out parking and you take out the locker, it's $843 a square foot. That's a pretty good price, right? It's hard to find. You can't find pre-construction for under 1,000 square foot in Toronto. It's hard. Oakville, you can do it. Stuff, there's areas like 600, but it's, I can't say all areas, but you can probably find resales for under $1,000 a square foot, but it's hard to find pre-con. At one point, I remember even downtown you weren't looking at anything under $1,700 a square foot.
Going back to the assignment sales side of things, right? Walk me through the factors someone should be looking into before getting that assignment. Okay.
So if you're the buyer of an assignment?
Exactly. I'm like, okay, I'm going to you. You're like, hey, I'm putting this in assignment. What are some of the things I should be aware of before actually?
First and foremost is the builder.
The builder.
Oh my God.
The reputation of the builder.
The reputation of the builder. What's their occupancy looking like? So occupancy is when you get the keys and you're paying a phantom mortgage. Basically, you're paying it for rent until you get registered. So what happens in a condo situation is that every floor, kind of what they do is they build up the shell. And I think we talked about this past, and every floor, they fix up the floor. When your unit's ready, they'll give you the keys. But they can't register, which means it doesn't become your ownership until the whole building is ready. And then everybody gets registered at the same time. So the lower of the level you have, right, the longer time it's going to take to get to the top. For there, you have a longer occupancy fee. And it's basically it's like rent. You're paying rent for your own unit. You're paying a portion of their maintenance fee and the taxes, but it goes to the builder. It doesn't go towards your equity of the property at all. So that's why I say it's kind of like a phantom mortgage or a rent. So we want to see, well, who's the builder? How long am I going to be? Is the occupancy going to last? If you're looking for investment purposes, am I allowed to rent out this property during occupancy? That's a big one, because technically you don't own the unit during occupancy. Again, you get the keys, Owen. You can move all your stuff in there, but you don't technically own it yet. So what happens if you default on your mortgage, right? So if you put a renter in there and it comes to close, and all of a sudden now you can't close, the builder's like, what the hell am I going to do now? Like, I have a renter in there. You got to kick the renter out or accept them. You know what I mean? It becomes an issue. So not all developers or builders will allow you to rent out during occupancy. Okay. So find out what the period between occupancy and registration are, right? And how much it's going to cost.
So
right?
reputation, occupancy.
Right. Yeah. Like, well, how much the occupancy fees are. Like, my mom was supposed to close on her condo. It was going to cost her $14,000 a month. And she's like, F that. She'd
$14K a month?
a month for at least 6 months. And again, that's just pissing. So what you could do is you could pay for the mortgage right up front. Like, if you have the cash or just get the mortgage, you could do that. Like, not everybody has that option, but you could do that. So yeah, it can be expensive. But the other thing is, obviously you want to take into consideration normal, like real estate numbers, real estate factors like location, size of the building, amenities, those kinds of things. But most of the time is if you get a project, I'm like, okay, what's the surrounding neighborhood going to be like? What's the value? What's the price right now? And you should also be pricing what the current value is, right? If you need, say it comes to occupancy and you get the keys like tomorrow, I'm like, well, how does that compare to the house of the neighbor across the street? What are they selling for? Sure, you might think you're getting a good deal at $600 a square foot, but if your neighbors are selling for $300 a square foot, you'd be stupid to buy it, especially if you're going to be getting the keys in the next 5 months. There's no way you're going to bring that up unless they're, I would say, like similar properties. You can't compare an old, like a building that was built in 1970 to something that was recent. Yeah, for a couple of reasons. One, they're bigger, like a lot bigger. Second is, like, a lot of times their maintenance fees are all included. And the maintenance fees are going to be higher because an older building had more issues to take care of. Right, sure. But your utilities usually included in those maintenance fees. But I've seen, like, regular, like 700 square foot units have maintenance fees of $1,000 a month. Yeah. So yeah, you got to take those into consideration.
How hard is it for the buyer to really dissect the reputation of a builder? Because it's not like a regular guy, regular civilian, now has like this database of like the reputation of like a builder. Like, for example, like I can look up Sam Mizrahi. He's popular, well known, but then he had a couple buildings that didn't go as planned. That is something that I have to be aware of. So for the regular Jane and Doe, what are they doing to find out the reputation?
Well, hopefully you have a realtor that knows pre-construction or has a pre-construction department. So I'm not saying I know all the builders, but what I do is we have a whole pre-construction department. So I call them or message them, and then we say, like, there's Stephanie and we've had Jeff on the program as well. And I say, guys, like, my clients came across this property, because we also get, like, our brokerage also vets a lot of them too, like, like a ton of the builders. So we only get like high level properties here. But if my clients found something online, they said, here, I'm like, who's the builder? I'll send it to them and say, what's the reputation? How good are these guys? And I want to know, right? Because and if Jeff doesn't know, like, Jeff is the one that's now doing all the pre-construction, he's dealing with them. He'll tell me, he's like, I don't really know these guys. So that's mean it's a good thing or a bad thing. Or if I know these guys, here's a reputation. Here's where we look. You have to have some sort of direction, right? The other thing is, it's always good to work with somebody who knows all about this stuff in the builder, like that's involved in these things, and you can see how many assignments there are in the building, right? You want to know that as well, right? Like, why is there so many? Like, well, if they're on MLS, it is, yeah.
Let's talk about the key drivers for the builders, right? So one of the key things the article said is that, there are fewer buyers now because pre-construction sales have slowed down dramatically. We have the rising construction costs, so labor, materials, and financing. The high interest rates as well, right? So developers' borrowing costs have spiked dramatically compared to before. And also investors are walking away because rentals are less profitable. So walk us through their mindset for the builders, because if these condos are stalling, right, and they're not moving, and these guys are, let's say, legacy builders, what's going on their side of things? Like, how are they looking at things? Because if they're saying this is a market trend moving forward, what does this mean for them?
You're saying like where do they see the market going in the
Exactly,
future?
yeah.
Well, the thing is, builders are smart. Like the ones that have been around the market, like they have ways that they've gone through these cycles, so they know the blueprint. And that's why it's always good to have a reputable builder. I always say like Tridal's a great builder. They're like the gold standard we have here. And right now, so I asked them, we had a walkthrough. I'm like, well, how you guys find the market? They're like, we're still selling things right now because we put forth a good product. We have our own in-house everything. Like they have their own house builders, like their own construction crews, all that stuff. So they're helped to mitigate those costs. But they also are smart enough to say, well, we had some projects we're just not going ahead with this year. So they've held off on those projects. And that's what mostly builders do. And I talked to Natalie's uncle about this too. And he's friends with like Go Park, the owners and all this stuff. And he would always say, doesn't matter what building is, when the market's hot, we turn the tap on. As soon as it starts to get a little cold, we start to turn off and completely. So, and if you're other builders, they'll buy the property and the land, they'll wait. And they'll say, they'll just sit there, we'll pay. We'll pay the taxes
It's
on
like
it.
10K, 15K a year.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. And it's a write-off. It is what it is. And we'll just wait. When the market starts, then we turn the tap back on. So, but if you're like a smaller builder only has, and you need projects like that, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble. But the bigger guys, the ones that have been around, that's why I say go to a reputable builder. The ones that have been through this a number of times, they know it's like every 5 years it goes in cycles. It goes up and down. They've seen it before. They know how to navigate through it. So that's why they have like a lot of their own trades, everything in-house. They're not dependent on other trades. And so there's still buildings that they're building right now, which we have to bring these ones through. And I said, well, new projects, we're holding off on some new projects right now, and we're tweaking with them. That's what happens.
In this cyclical period, right? You mentioned that this has happened before, it goes up and down. Is this particular period like the worst it has been compared to the historic side of things?
You're saying in condos or just houses in general?
Let's stick with condos because
we can't say like it's hard to say condos because the amount of condos we're building over here, we haven't had that in history, right? So that's why I wanted to stipulate this. But if you look at the actual numbers we're having right now, like this year is the slowest year we've had for sales in the last 30 years, right? Which is significant, obviously. But if you look at per capita, because our population's growing, if you look at the amount of sales per capita, it's the worst market we've had for sales since the inception of the MLS system, right? So you're talking more than 30 years, 40 years, wherever. I don't know, it was in the 90s, wherever it was, right? So, like it could be 30, 40 years. It's the slowest market we've ever had. So you can see how that can affect it. You see when that has an effect or slow sales, well, you can see how it can affect the pre-construction because you're trying to tell me in a market where it's cold right now, not even hot, it's cold. You're trying to sell me something that's on a plan and you're not sure that you can actually get the funding in order to build it and your timelines are off and you're not a reputable builder. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah. I would say, no, you're not putting money into this.
Yeah.
You may lose your money, not even get it back. And especially if it's not a reputable builder, like at least the reputable builders, they know that they're doing everything right and you're putting in your money in trust and you get that back. I don't know, man. If you're working with a sketchy one and like they're not really doing the rules right, are they going to take off with my money? I know it's supposed to be in trust. I'm obviously being facetious,
exactly,
but I'm just saying, right?
Yeah. So those new entrepreneurs trying to be builders right now might not be the best time for you to like come into the market. But DC, as we work towards wrapping up, right? What does this mean for the short-term and long-term impact on the market, especially with this kind of information, with the trend that they're projecting it in terms of it going like this?
I don't think people, we've been saying this over and over again, I don't think people realize the opportunity they have to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you understand that right now. And this trend is only going to last a certain amount. Like Urbanation talked about it. They see the end of the condo market. For example, if you're a first-time home buyer, let's be honest, you're probably paying for a condo. This trend they see ending at the end of 2026 and starting to like a neutral, probably into 2027. So you have a limited amount of opportunity now to purchase. But it's not just condos. Like we're seeing properties sell. Like I don't know if you saw that one post I had the other day, which wasn't AI. We're selling a property in Colgan, right? And one of my clients, they send to me, they're like, hey, this house just sold for 1.9. Well, ours is 1.5, right? But anyways, listed for 1.9. And I push back and I'm like, interesting. Did you see the history? At one point it was listed for 2.6, then 2.5. And I was like, well, I wonder why. I went to the deed. These guys paid $2.4 million for this. And they just sold it for 1.9. So they lost $500,000. And I'm like, they didn't just lose $500,000. They also had to pay land transfer tax on that, realtor fees, lawyer fees, et cetera, et cetera. They lost over $600,000. So on paper, I'm like, oh, you got 1.9 for it. But so like I'm saying, and that was just a brand new built home, right? Again, somebody who probably just needed to close on it and get rid of it. There are opportunities in this market. Now, I never tell you to go gouge people, I'm saying, but some people unfortunately need to sell. So we help facilitate that sale. So there are opportunities for buyers. And it's not just the condo market. I was just using that as an example. But condos, like I just said, how the prices have dropped dramatically, over $100,000 even in Toronto area, that's huge. And not to mention, you have, like at one point, I think Amy Gilmore and I were talking, and she's like, Dave, do you realize like 70% of the listings in Toronto are condos? And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. So you have choice.
I'm just an idea, right? For projects stalling like this, so there's some breaks the city of Toronto can give to builders to, I don't know how it works, but maybe some cost breaks or some funding.
I'm not a politician yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
I should go ask Miss Chow.
Yeah. She's too busy dancing in the corner. Yeah. Weird little festivals she goes to. I know there's some talk about that, but I haven't seen anything that I know of.
Yeah. But you think they should do something like that, or it's kind of like a private market?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always of the mindset to keep government out of commerce as much as possible. Because as soon as they're starting putting their hands in things, things get sour.
As soon as they get in, they start like,
and they start dictating things. Well, you should have bike lanes on Bloor Street.
So you give them an inch to take a mile.
Oh yeah.
But hope you guys have enjoyed that podcast. This podcast today. Any more questions regarding pre-construction or anything that's going on in the market, you know where to find Mr. David Chinelli, right?
Woo-hoo.
And we'll definitely see you next week for a brand new episode. Stay safe. Have a great week. And God bless you. Peace out.
Ciao.